thanks so much, Concetta, for joining me today. I'm always honored to talk to you about divorce, the way things have changed, the way that we practice divorce in a different way. And so I thought today it would be a great opportunity for us to have a conversation about the evolution of the way people have gotten divorced, the way family court has maybe changed over the years here in New York, because I know you've been doing this for a long time. Obviously, you're very, very skilled at what you do in court, but we want to talk about the options outside of court also, and maybe how hopefully things are shifting and focusing more on out of court options. So first, let me turn it over to you to, number one, introduce yourself, and then talk to us about family court and how maybe things have changed over the years from what you've seen.
Thank you so much, Liz. It's been a pleasure working with you over the years, and I've obviously been doing this a very long time. I'm an attorney. I've been collaboratively trained and mediation trained. Collaborative, you have to have mediation training before you can get collaboratively trained. We'll talk about that. But I've been in the court system for all that time. I've been practicing for now, scary to say, 38 years.
You've seen it.
Yeah, and people don't realize what you see or what really happens in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, so talk to us then about 38 years is obviously a long time, but litigating, say, even 10, 20 years ago, as opposed to what the court system looks like now or how people can get divorced now. How does it look different?
It's changed. What the good news is that what we call alternative dispute resolution has become not only a real thing in the real world, but the courts are starting to recognize that. And they have what they call presumptive mediation, but it's not functioning that well. And depending on what county you're in, it could be county to county in New York. But the bottom line is, in New York State, family law, as you would call it, if you have a family dispute, that could be family court, but divorce can only be done through Supreme Court.
Okay. And when you're talking about alternative dispute resolution, mediation is one of them?
And collaborative is the other, correct.
Right.
So the court termed that kind of like alternative dispute resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Alternative to the court.
Alternative to litigation in the court, because the traditional way to get divorce is somebody has to file a summons and complaint for divorce, and then you're in the court's hands to, depending on what you do, whatever extent. If you're truly doing a litigation, you could be stuck there in that litigation pattern for years even. Mm-hmm. People don't realize how long and how costly that is and how toxic and contentious it can be as well.
Yeah. So before you said that the courts have this presumptive mediation, what is your experience with this presumptive mediation, at least where we practice on Long Island?
Well, what's great is trained professionals like yourself and I have been doing this for a long time. So mediation and collaborative have existed for over 40 years. The courts haven't recognized it for that long, and what they term and utilize it as in the court system is different. So when you and I mediate, we're not mediating in the court system.
Right. We do private mediation where
right. And
it's more supportive.
The court says you can mediate, but we want you to use a court personnel to mediate. And many times they've had maybe 6 hours of training in mediation. I mean, that's changing in itself too, but you're still stuck with that unless you truly go outside of the system, whether you filed for litigation or not, and choose to settle your case in one of these alternative dispute resolution models.
Yeah. So then briefly, if you can, then in the court, what mediation is, right? As opposed to what mediation would be if somebody came to you in your office.
So mediation, you have a trained professional, hopefully, okay, because it's not licensed like I'm licensed to practice law, you're licensed to practice law. There is no certification in New York or criteria, but any good mediator has had hours of mediation skills, practice, and training, okay? So you have to understand and know that the professional you're dealing with, whether it be an attorney or otherwise, is trained, okay? So mediation, the way it's supposed to work is that mediator is a neutral third party to the couple or to the dispute, whatever you're dealing with. So that means that they're not taking sides. They're not, giving legal advice. So even though I'm an attorney, if I'm acting as a mediator, I don't have my attorney hat on. I literally have a mediation hat on. And I'm acting as a neutral, which means I do not represent either party. And I can educate them as to what the law is. And I'm not there to tell them what to do. I'm there to help them facilitate a resolution to whatever their conflict is.
Yeah.
And obviously, in the case of a divorce, they're looking to get divorced. So that could be the first step.
Yeah, and you're never trying to sway them one way or the other, like the law says this, so you should do that. Whereas the mediation in the court system
That's a different story.
Is very different. You and I have both been involved in court-ordered mediations with their court personnel who really treat it like a settlement conference, which is very, very guided by whoever the mediator is that's working there.
What the public doesn't realize is the court has one objective: to get the cases on their docket off their docket.
Yep.
They don't care about who those people are that docket number represents or the family that it represents. They're looking to move it off their docket, however they can do that. So it's a very different environment, and it's very different in how it's structured and run.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really important distinction that people need to remember, is that I need help, so I'm going to go to the court system. The truth of the matter is the court is going to help, right, those air quotes there, in the way that they're going to get your matter put on the calendar. They're going to get you scheduled for whatever it is, a conference, a hearing, a mediation. They will get you put in the calendar, but then they want desperately to get you pushed off. Get it on, get it off, because there's 1,000 other cases pushing behind that need to be moved along. So it's not about self-determination. It's not about hearing you. It's not about listening to and honoring your voice. It's about how do we get you off of our docket.
That's such an excellent point, Liz, because self-determination is what the alternative processes are all about, and focusing on the family and children-centric. The court system, people think that it's there to protect them, but that's really not its function. And you have no control once you're in the court system, other than saying, I'm stepping outside the court system, or I'm going to go settle this elsewhere. You don't have control. You're at the court's mercy to be on their time schedule, which is usually a lot slower, and a lot of time and money is wasted watching your case do nothing.
Yeah, so that brings us to like the second point that I wanted to address, is that there are these other options out there: divorce mediation and collaborative divorce. And we'll talk a little bit more about collaborative divorce and its benefits. But talking about how long that you've been practicing and seeing these shifts and these changes, what are some of the challenges that you're still seeing in court today, even with these alternative options?
Well, there's challenges on many levels. So if you're in the court system and you're kind of stuck in it, you're at their mercy to get it taken care of. And like I said, the court's agenda and the party's agenda are two different things. The court is a very antagonist or toxic environment. It's based on an adversary situation, which means this party opposes that party, and they're out to do what's best for themselves, not what's best for their kids or their future.
Right. I mean, you've been in court, and
Yeah.
you've seen how it works when attorneys are literally yelling and screaming at each other. Parties are sitting there crying and yelling. It's exactly what you said. This adversarial system is not only expected, but it's encouraged almost.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, people don't understand. They see TV, or they have a concept in their head saying, you know, I'm so right. I just need to tell it to the judge, and they're going to see it my way. And that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
The reality is, the person, meaning the party in the case, the litigant, never gets to talk to the court. They only get to talk or have an interchange with the court through their attorney.
Yeah. So I want to dive deeper into that, because so many people say that, well, it's not fair because he did X, Y, and Z. I want the court to know about the cheating, the money, all of the wrongs that were put upon me by my soon-to-be ex. And when you explain to them this story, this narrative is going to be told through this narrow lens, you're not going to get up there and tell your story. No, I'll take it to trial, and I'll tell the judge.
You still don't get to tell your story then. It's limited, because the judge can determine what you can speak about and what you can't.
Yep.
So if they're not interested in, the fighting back and forth, because it's not an issue for the court to determine, you don't need grounds for all things in New York any longer, because we've now come into the 21st century, and, you don't have to establish grounds to get divorced, which you used to be able to do. So that's a big change.
Yeah.
Now you can say that, we don't get along anymore. And, kind of like irreconcilable differences that they had in California, we've adopted it differently.
Yeah, like
But-
no fault. That's what they call no fault.
Right.
here,
It's a
yeah.
no fault. But we didn't have that ground for many years.
For a long time.
So people were stuck in marriages when they wanted out if they couldn't establish and the other person didn't want to consent.
Right.
So, and then you'd end up litigating not only the grounds, but all the other aspects of a divorce that have to be, addressed by the court. Finances, property, liabilities, children, custody, parenting time, all of that. It can get very complicated.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because that's because there's no fault. The judges have even less tolerance now to listen to your story about how your spouse cheated on you, about how they, went and spent money on a vacation in Tahiti with their girlfriend. The courts don't care.
They don't.
Yeah.
They truly don't. So people that think that they're going to have their day in court, like Judge Judy or something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen that way.
Right.
And
Yeah,
like
and
I
it's
said, you never get to speak. I mean, I'm very good with my clients in the sense that, many times conferences, and people don't realize it. You go into court, sometimes you're in an open courtroom, but many times you're having a conversation in the hallway with your attorney.
yeah.
You don't get to see the judge, you don't get to speak to the judge, and you don't get to see how the judge works. And many times we have conferences in court and we're pulled into chambers, and we're not even necessarily, depending on the judge, talking to the judge. We're talking to the judge's law secretary
That's true.
or their clerk. So,
And your client had to take off of work, find childcare, sometimes get transportation, get to the court, and then they sit outside in the hallway and they never see the judge. They don't even see the law clerk or the secretary. You go in the back, have this conference with them for 10, 15 minutes after you sat there for a few hours. Then you come out and you have to report back to your client what happened. And they said, I just took off of work and had to pay for childcare and had to get transportation for you to come out and report to me what happened in a 10-minute conference. And I just paid you for 4 hours of being here.
yeah, it's a very horrible thing.
Yeah.
And it's extremely, extremely costly.
Yeah. And that hasn't changed. That's
That actually has gotten worse. It's changed. It's gone up.
there you go. There you go. You
So
pay even
if
more.
you want to turn over your savings and possibly your college tuition for your children to a litigation process, go to court for a divorce.
Yeah.
Because you could lose it all. And
Yeah.
many people have, and that's also a disgrace and a hardship.
Yeah, that's atrocious because it really has gotten.
I don't know about you, but people work hard for their money. So do I.
Yeah.
And to see it just dwindle away because you're watching the clock and the judge hasn't hit the bench yet, or they decided, we had to take care of this emergency matter, come back tomorrow or come back this afternoon.
Yeah.
And there's so much
And
time
you get no
wasted.
say in that. You get no say. That's the other thing is
Nope.
that the attorney, when I say, I have another matter, push it. I'll call the judge's chambers. You're not going to there. You're going to be here. Well, your client still has to take off of work. They, again, have to find childcare. They have to make arrangements for their life, and the judges don't want to hear it.
And people don't realize that. And the other thing they don't realize is they think everything is fair. It's not.
Oh, my gosh.
We're at
yes.
their mercy. So I've had situations where clients have come to me after the fact, after everything's done, and they said, I didn't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
My attorney's working with the other attorney in the hallway because the judge says we have to settle this, or they're going to dismiss the case, or we
Yep.
can't take this trial. You don't want to go to trial, go settle it. And my attorney's there scribbling in the hallway, making adjustments to an agreement we thought we had, and now I don't even know what we signed. So
Yeah. And that's a really good point, too, because, the reality is it's not always about the attorney just doing this and sitting out there in the hallway making these changes. The judges have directed them to do it. I've had judges many times say that to me. Get outside and resolve this, cancel. Go get a room, sit in the hall, resolve this, figure it out, and get me a signed agreement by this afternoon. How is that going to protect our clients, and how is that as an attorney going to reflect when we can't even fully counsel our clients on everything that's being written in there?
it's a disservice to everybody except the court system that wants you off their calendar.
Exactly.
Because if you think about it, if I've had the time to go back and forth with you on an agreement and we've hammered out all the little details, we've gotten to talk to our clients, make sure they understand
Yep.
and agree, and then you're in a situation where, we don't get to put a clean agreement together. We have to handwrite and do something. And at this point, sometimes they used to have us do it, put things on the record, which means you come into the courtroom and have to speak it onto the record and a court reporter takes it down. I won't do that anymore because there's so much liability because you may miss something. Okay? You're trying to put everything in the right order and they're asking for you to do it on the fly. It's a disservice for everybody except the court system.
That is really true because I've actually litigated cases where they've come in with their agreement, and that's exactly what it was. It was a court transcript because there was never a typed order after that, except so ordering that date, what was put on the record, and things are missed. Things are misspelled. Things are misspoken.
And you don't know until you get the transcript back.
Exactly. And now your client is sitting here on the hook for whatever is in that transcript because the court so ordered it.
Yeah.
And now you have to try to fight it later. And it's just such a disaster. And like you said, I love that you said it's just a disservice. It's a full disservice to us as a profession and to our clients and to the public. It really is.
And it's putting us in a bad situation because we're there to advocate or make sure that our clients are protected. And that sometimes, the court imposes on us all the time. Like, for instance, if we talk about financial situations, I'm not an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to school to be a CPA.
Yep.
I know the law. I can't tell you how your 401k works.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you have to go out in the hall and settle it.
Right. Or, will this work for you in the future for your budget? Do you have enough money to live after this divorce? But in the other processes, you have those professionals that are there to help you.
Yeah.
The court system doesn't really care about that, and if you're going to be dealing with that kind of professional, it's really to bring them in for trial purposes to testify to something, whether it's a
Yeah.
business valuation or something. So it's not the same.
It's not.
It
It's not the
doesn't
same.
support the client.
And it doesn't create a supportive environment for them to create their own future, to
That's
think
correct.
about that financial future. So to that point, Lynn, let's talk about how the court is obviously still not working for any marginalized group, especially the
God.
LGBTQ plus community and the issues that they're still now facing, but the issues that they faced historically in court when it comes to getting divorced or separated or any family law issues, and how maybe the court looks and maybe how dealing with that outside of the court will benefit them greatly.
Marginalized groups really get the shaft. They just do.
Yeah.
When you talk about the LGBT community, it's even more so because you have the prejudice. What you have to recognize, and most people don't realize this, you go to court, the person on the bench who's in the robes is first more a person. And as one of my law professors used to say, they come to this with the same predilections and, prejudice and how they run their daily life. When they put their robe on that morning, they haven't changed who they are. So, and you don't have any control when you have a case on what judge you get.
Mm-hmm. And what mood they're in that day.
Exactly. And you and I have known there are judges that can change moods within the hour that we're in front of them.
Absolutely.
So, but for this community, it's number of things fold. You've got the prejudice for some people that don't accept LGBTQ. Then you have the issues of the LGBTQ community did not have the right to marry for so long. Mm-hmm. So like for someone like myself, okay, my wife and I have been together for 38 years. Marriage wasn't even a dream when we got together.
Yep.
Of being a thing, because there was I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime. When I was in college, I didn't think that was going to be a possibility. But then you had states starting to legalize, and then you had a Supreme Court decision in Oberfeld that legalized it nationally. But that's relatively young, 2015. Okay, so if you have a situation like myself, where we've been together for 38 years, and we've planned the future together for 38 years.
Financially had everything intertwined.
So for instance, I, as an attorney, am more the moneyed spouse, okay? But I have taken care of my spouse. So for economic purposes, sometimes money from my business went into her retirement to build both of our retirements for the future, because we're planning it as together.
Yep.
Okay? She kicks my butt out tomorrow. The court doesn't care what we did 38 years ago. And they're not going to say, Concetta, you get your money back for putting that into her retirement. It's in her name as of the date of the divorce filing. We don't care about what you did 38 years ago.
Exactly.
So there's things like that the court, first of all, is not the place for anybody. It's a toxic environment. It's not a place to get amicably divorced.
Absolutely.
And or financially, if you don't care whether it's toxic or not, the bottom line is you're paying for it in some way, shape, or form, and you're not going to avoid that. But you can avoid the cost and what it's going to take to do it by staying out of court.
Yeah. So then talk to us about what that looks like when you're talking about, so the Obergefell Supreme Court decision said that all states have to recognize marriage as of 2015. But what if you are together since 2000 and you again, have finances intertwined, you own businesses, you have a house, you have children, you have a life together long before that? How would choosing the collaborative divorce model or even mediation, something outside of court, how would that look?
It's totally different. I can now have control over the outcome. My spouse and I can decide whether we include what we did and what we planned from the very beginning. And we can do it equitably and fairly as far as what we're doing and how we want to look the future to look like. So you have much more control and choices, and you can also be more creative. Even in a non-LGBTQ situation, when you're outside the court system, things that you could not accomplish through the court system, you can accomplish through collaborative law.
Yeah.
Because you have those professionals, you have a financial neutral that helps you and helps the couple figure these things out. And what are different options? What is it going to look like if we do it this way? What's going to look like if we do it that way? Can we shift these economic puzzle pieces in a different way that make it work better for the family? So, but you don't have that option in court.
Yeah. Because again, the court, regardless of marginalized group or not, again, the bottom line is their goal is anything that's on their desk, they get it off. And now it's just a question of how do they get it off? They get it off their calendar with either an agreement or a court order. So if you come up with an agreement in the collaborative model, say, and then you file it with the court, is that still legally binding in the same way?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you do the paperwork correctly, it's absolutely binding. So long as you have the right professionals that are there to help you and you put together the agreement, as you know, if you have professionals like ourselves that know how to do it correctly, or we do this inside of the court and as well as outside, you just have to meet the criteria of what's required by the court, and you have to make sure that that principal agreement between those parties, which is golden for them, is what they intend it to be. The court's not going to get involved in that contract if they don't have to. So long as it's proper, it's going to go through the process of getting filed and stamped, and you'll get divorced, and that's the only way that happens.
Yeah, and that's a good point, is that just the paperwork has to go, right? It has to go in there and get stamped. The collaborative model and divorce mediation is designed for you to resolve everything outside of the court. We could sit here, right? We're going to sit across the table right now, and we're going to look at all the finances, look at your parenting plan, look at the house, look at your assets, and we're going to help you come to a resolution and divide it all, put it all in paper, make sure that it's all done properly, and then submit it to the court. You never have to go to the court. We don't even have to make one appointment.
What I like to tell clients is, you never have to go into the courthouse, go into a courtroom. You don't even have to walk by the courthouse.
You don't even have to know the address.
Right. Because you know what? You don't have to go through the court system. Your paperwork does. And when you use these alternative methods, that's exactly. It takes that whole stress of having to even drive past the courthouse, let alone go into one. And the other thing that I want to say, you have no control over the timetable when you're stuck in the court system. So you're stuck with the court's calendar. If your attorneys don't work to economically, move this along, and even then you have the constraints of the court's calendar on when you can get a conference, when you can go to trial, all those things are out of your control. But in these other processes, guess what? You control it. So if you and your spouse decide you want to work this out quickly because you have other plans and you want to move on with life, you get to do that. Other people that are stuck in the court system, if they're not on agreement and they don't come to the page, they could be there for years.
Absolutely, and I've seen
And
that.
that's scary.
Yeah.
Think about it. Put your whole life on hold for years.
Yes, 2 or 3 years is not uncommon for it to take.
Right.
2 or 3 years down the road when you're still
married. And that's a simple divorce.
And that's a pretty simple one, yeah.
Right.
You add complex layers, you can add years to that. And what does time equal? More money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what about the toll on your life?
Yeah.
Whether you have kids or not, your life, you can't go forward. You can't, get married again. You can't do anything.
Everything's on hold.
And all your finances are controlled, because when you file for divorce, there's a stay in place that says you can't change, other than ordinary living expenses, what you own and what you have.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's crippling. It's like
So-
putting handcuffs on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. And so the alternative then is what we've been talking about, divorce mediation and collaborative divorce. So for anyone who doesn't know, let's talk a little bit about mediation, which I think most people have a better understanding, maybe not fuller, but a better understanding as to mediation. But I don't know that a lot of people, probably very few people, understand what collaborative divorce is.
I don't understand that too, Liz. You and I have been doing this a long time. For some reason, mediation is better known by the public. I mean, you and I have been speaking about this for years.
And we never stop.
And we don't, because we need to educate people that they have options. Okay? It's important. Nobody should be stuck in the court system. But for some reason, mediation seems to have had traction in New York as far as publication and people becoming aware of it. Collaborative has been around for more than 40 years nationally, and it's in international collaborative groups.
Yeah, we're both part of the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals. It's recognized across the world.
So this is not something new. This is not a light bulb that just went off. It's tried and true, and it's been around for a long time. But the problem is most everyday people don't know about it.
Exactly.
And haven't, for so many of them, haven't even heard about it, which is a shame, because it's, to me, in many cases, I think it's better than mediation, because you have a team of professionals that supports that family, and you have everybody working in all aspects that affect what needs to be resolved and what has to be worked on and figured out to get divorced.
So let's take a little deeper dive and talk about what a collaborative divorce is. What is the collaborative model? How does it start? What does it look like? And how does it navigate the world of divorce or separation?
Well, basically, a collaborative divorce, first of all, has to have collaboratively trained professionals.
Very important.
So somebody can hang out a shingle and say they're a psychotherapist and not be licensed as a Psychiatrists, similarly, okay? You don't need a certificate or a license to do mediation. You don't need a license to do collaborative, but you're dealing with licensed, trained professionals. So what does that mean? So the attorneys, like yourself and I, are collaboratively trained, which means we also have had an extensive amount of mediation training before you can get collaboratively trained. Most people don't know that. So we're licensed as attorneys, and we don't, our requirements for that don't change. But now we've added the training, and we are collaboratively trained. So you have two attorneys, one representing each side, but it's totally different. Okay, this is not toxic, adversarial. All right. In fact, we call it a paradigm shift, that the attorneys literally have to take that hat off and change it. Well, they're not changing.
And we don't call each other opposing counsel.
No,
we are collaborative counterparts.
counsel, right? Because it's not about, trying to, for lack of a better term, get one up on the other party. I'm not trying to get an advantage from my client. We're here to solve this amicably and to do what's best for this couple, this family, whoever our clients are. So we're not, hostile or adversarial. In fact, you and I know sometimes your client might not be hearing what you're saying. We're at a collaborative table. I couldn't do this in court. I can go speak to your client and say, hi, I don't know if you heard what Liz said. This is what I heard her say. Do you understand that?
Right.
And sometimes hearing it from the other attorney in the room or one of the other professional makes a difference. So going back to who's in the room or what collaborative is, so you have the two attorneys, okay? And then you have two neutrals. One is a financial professional and the other is a mental health professional. So let's not be confused. We're not doing therapy.
Yep.
Okay? We're not doing a tax return, okay? So those professionals are there for specific reasons. They're there to help the process. And they're acting as a neutral, which means, again, they're not advocating for either side. They're not telling them what to do. They're helping them facilitate what's best for the family and for each other, okay?
So if the mental health professional isn't doing therapy, most of the times people will say, well, then what is a mental health professional doing there?
I can't tell you how important the mental health professional is to this process.
Key.
Because let's give an example. You and I have a higher hourly rate than most mental health professionals do and financial advisors. Okay? So per hour, ka-ching, we're more expensive. Okay?
Times two.
Times two, right. So if the mental health professional can deal with a hot button item like, we can't deal with, who's going to have the children for, summer vacation, or there's a hot button issue about how much time am I going to get with my kid? How much time are they getting with our kid? These things can be very emotional, okay? Who's going to have custody? What does that mean? A mental health professional who's working with both of them,
Yep.
Okay, because they're together. Sometimes they may talk to one of them each separately, but they're working together with them. They don't represent either party. There's no adversary in this at all. They can sometimes cut through that stuff.
Yes. And they can view it from a lens that is,
Excuse me.
no, good. They view it through a lens that is emotional, because that's what they're talking about. The emotions of who's going to see the kids for the birthday, who's going to have the kids for the holidays, whatever the issue is, where you and I are going to look at it legally and say, okay, well, I mean, legally they're both entitled to. How do we work this out, right? I'll talk to my client, you talk to yours, and then we're going to sit down and try to work it out. Where the mental health professional, who we usually call a facilitator or a family specialist, they're going to listen to both of them and ensure that they're hearing each other. Make sure that the communication is looped back in a way that they're hearing. The both of you want what's best for your kids. So let's try to come to a resolution here that makes sense. So how about if we try X? How about if we do Y? And then helps them sort of reframe it in a way that attorneys, quite frankly, are just not trained to do. We have the paradigm shift.
Really?
Yeah, we have all of that, and we want what's best for our clients, and we are interest-based, right? We want to work on the interest as opposed to digging our heels in, but we are not trained as mental health professionals, and we don't understand those nuances the way the facilitators do.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, and then the same thing with the financial person, right? That person is there in order to look at the entire financial picture, make sure that they understand what it is that they do have, maybe the gaps, maybe what support would look like, what assets look like, how it is that they're going to divide it, and help them come up with a future budget.
Yeah.
Because
imperative.
a lot of times you have two incomes in one household. How in the world are we going to make this work, especially today with a cost of living crisis, with not understanding with understanding job insecurity, with not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow as far as the housing market. We really need somebody who's going to help them be future focused and create a budget that is going to make sense. It might be different, of course, but it's not going to leave them out there flailing around wondering what the heck do we do.
And how many times do you come across a couple that one person knows all the finances, the other knows nothing about the finances?
Very true.
Because they delegated different things in their relationship, and it wasn't important, and they were secure within that. But now,
That's a good point, because it's also about financial education. You have
Mhm.
people who don't know, and that was okay during a certain period, right? We're not even talking about financial abuse, because obviously that's real, right? There are
Mhm.
situations with that, and collaborative can help with that. But even if you take that out of the equation and people are in agreement, okay, you take over the finances because I'm going to be working on another domain, right? I'm taking care of the kids and I'm focusing on my job. You can take care of all the household finances. Well, when it comes time to get divorced, if you haven't been participating in that and you don't know what the budget is, you can be fully shocked at
blindsided even.
fully blindsided at how little you have, maybe at where that retirement money went, loans that are taken out, second and third mortgages on your house. People can be really, it feels like the rug is being pulled out from under them, and they're,
Big time.
yeah, completely lost. So that's the beauty of having the financial neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, not working for one, not working for the other, no judgment here, not about, oh, you did this wrong, you shouldn't have done X, Y, and Z. It's about, this is the reality. How do we take this reality and now make it work for you for the future? Even if we have to be creative, like you said, we have to work a little differently. If we were in court, there's a formula that they would follow. Judge stamps it and moves you along. That might not work for your family. Let's figure out a way that it will work for your family.
The financial picture and understanding it. And like I said, how many times have we met clients that one person either doesn't have a grasp or it wasn't where their expertise was, so they let the other spouse take care of it. And not that that's a bad thing. But when it comes to, the time that you have to figure out what's what and understand, you need to know.
Yeah.
You need to have an understanding. It's like when you go to the doctor. You get a diagnosis. You need to educate yourself about it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
So
And you have to ask them to kind of give that to you in 101 language.
yes, I love that.
Yeah.
101 language, yes.
Yeah, because when I go to a doctor and they say, oh, you need a CBC panel and you need this and
Can you talk
Hello?
to me like I'm a 4-year-old and then explain it to me like in
exactly
in that example so I understand it? Because I don't have your medical training.
Yep.
And it's the same thing here. As you said before, we're not financial professionals. I mean, granted, you and I have learned a lot over the time, and some people are more number-minded than others, but I don't have the expertise of
Yep.
a CPA or a certified divorce financial planner.
And nor do I want it.
Yeah, that's also true.
And nor do I want it. I want to work in the field that I'm skilled in, that I'm comfortable in, and where I know I can bring the most value to my clients. I think that the collaborative professionals that we work with are all of that same mindset. Our goal is to help families be whole in a different way as they move forward, but create an environment where they feel supported, they feel heard, and our services are exactly what they're paying for. We're not just wasting time and money like in litigation.
I think you hit on something very important. People don't realize having not only skilled professionals that are competent in what they do, but in our profession and in the collaborative process, having professionals that know each other, have worked together with each other before. And when I say work together, been on cases and have helped clients in a mutual fashion in that process, and that you're familiar with working with that professional and you have trust there.
Yeah. And that is important, because anyone who's trained in this model, we all sort of get trained the same way, right? We understand what the training is, but working with different personality types, working with different geography, different communities, marginalized communities, we have a nuance as to, you know what, Concetta would be better in this environment because her energy would match this situation. And that's what we want. We want the right professional to be on that team so
That's
that it can
very
support
important.
the family.
That's an excellent point, Liz,
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
just like no two people are the same, and when I first get a call from a client, that's one of the things that, I don't take it personally. You have to be able to be comfortable with me. This is one of the most important times of your life. You have to trust me. You have to be comfortable with me. And if we don't hit it off, that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to find the right professional. And that's one thing that's great about our practice group. We're very keen and, pay attention to that and
Yeah.
give client options.
And we stay in touch. We have our monthly meetings. We are very, very connected, and we always do what's best for the clients. And I think this sort of circles back to what we talked about at the beginning. That is not an option in court.
No.
You do not get to choose. They're going to appoint a financial valuator for that business. They're going to appoint an attorney for the child, maybe forensics. The court is in charge of whoever comes into that process. And sometimes that person can make it 10 times worse. And I mean, it's bad to begin with.
Yeah.
So just, full circle here, do not go to court.
I say to clients all the time, there's 3 things I can't control when you come to me. Yes, I'll be your advocate and I will, fight to the death for you. But I don't control who your spouse is and how they behave in that process.
Yep.
I have no option or control over who they choose as their counsel and how that counsel will behave in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, if we're in front of a judge, you get the spin of the wheel. You don't get to pick who your judge is, and you get stuck with who you got, and you have no idea how they're going to function in that role. And some of them are great, and a lot of them aren't.
Yep. That's a really good point. And so maybe we'll end it on the 3. You were just talking about the 3 things that you can't control. The 3 things that we really value the most in the collaborative model is the full transparency, right? You have to be transparent because people think that the collaborative model is not as protective as it is if you were in court. Oh, I'm going to be left out.
I think it's more so.
I think so too,
for
sure.
One point alone, confidentiality. When you go into court, nothing is confidential.
Yeah, it's just an open courtroom, yeah.
Right. You could be spilling your guts about what's happening at home, and it's right in open court.
But you don't have to fight about the full transparency. You don't have to have people in court listening to you fighting about your tax returns or how much money your business made. So full transparency in the collaborative model, that financial professional is going to make sure that everything is transparent and it's all shared. The second thing is that we're always going to be working in the best interest of the family. You and I are on a case together. We're collaborative counterparts. Of course, I'm going to be advocating for my client. You're going to be doing the same. But at the end of the day, we want what's best for the entire family going forward. And lastly, we never, ever threaten to go to court. We will not go to court. Once we have formed the team, the 2 attorneys, the mental health professional, and the financial professional, we sign an agreement that says we're all going to stay here at the table and we are going to work this out. If it takes a month, if it takes a year, we're committed to staying in this process. If the clients ever decide to leave, they have the option to do that, but none of us go with them.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of the collaborative model. That's the buy-in for the professionals, and that's the buy-in for the couple.
And with our experience and what we've seen, you and I well know that there are no other dedicated professionals like the people that do this process.
That is
and
very,
they're dedicated to their clients and to the benefits of that and well-being of that family.
Yeah, agreed. I'm just going to pause it for a second because I just wanted to do my wrap-up. Is that okay? All right. And I don't remember it now, so there we go. I mean, I think that was it, yeah.
I think you're wrapped good with respect to...
Yeah, I think so. All right, so then we'll just kind of do a little goodbye. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. All right, so then, yeah, I'll just say, so it's always wonderful speaking to you about both of our passion, right?
Likewise.
Helping families through this process. And just as one wrap up, as we wrap up, what's one piece of advice that you would give to anyone who's contemplating divorce or separation and, giving them a solid piece of advice to move forward?
Before they jump into the pool, they need to educate themselves and find out about the options before they take that step. You don't want to jump off the diving board and not know the pool water you're getting into.
I love it. Yep, that's perfect. So thanks again, Concetta. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah,
this was fun.
Collaborate, do not litigate.
That's right. At all costs, do not litigate.
Thanks.